Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years.
Now, that's one clip you'll never forget for the rest of your life. Back in 2020, when Joe Biden was running against Trump, he was talking to Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club, and you heard him say, if you can't decide whether you're for Trump or Biden, you ain't black. Well, apparently, that comment back then didn't go over well, and now we know for sure it's not going over well, because he's pulling out all the stops using the #1 race hustler, Al Sharpton, to push their DEI propaganda, if you will, on everyone in this country, because we all know diversity, equity, and inclusion is wrong. It's unfair. People are being hired for jobs that they are not qualified for. They're being hired because of the color of their skin or whatever gender they identify as. But Al Sharpton has a big plan to help Joe Biden amongst the black community, and he's going to have a march, DEI Thursday, and they're going to tell the American people how important DEI is today.
We're marching from here to Bill Ackman's office with our protests, DEI Thursday.
DEI is the new N-word.
The battle of the next decade is DEI.
We have heard so many attacks, and some of them inaccurate, about diversity, equity, inclusion programs, DEI.
I mean, this overt racism, attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
So basically that's their plan, is to try to push the racial vote down the throats of minorities. They're going to try to convince the American people that Donald Trump is racist, and the misrepresented or marginalized communities are the ones that need Joe Biden to help them succeed in this country today, because we all know everything's outrageously expensive, inflation is historically high, and Joe Biden has done nothing to help anyone in this country except for millionaires and billionaires. But other things happen, and when you talk to black voters, they're really telling you how they feel about Joe Biden. They're telling you that Joe Biden has done nothing for the American people, especially African Americans.
What has Joe Biden done for black voters?
I would say nothing. I'm not voting for Joe Biden. You can put that on.
It is our intention to be behind him, but also hold him accountable.
So what has he done for the black community?
It's the end of my sentence, period.
Who will you be voting for?
Independent.
Why are African American voters flocking to Donald Trump?
They had it better when he was in office the first time.
He's helping them.
How?
Money-wise, economy-wise.
He believes in taking care of America first.
And it doesn't get any more real than that. They're being asked who they support, and they are not supporting Joe Biden. One lady said she's an independent, but then she went on to say how Joe Biden has done nothing for her community. Another black lady said Donald Trump put America first. We know Joe Biden does not put America first. He only puts certain groups of people first, and he loves spending taxpayer money by sending it to other countries, okay? They all think Joe Biden's this innocent old man who means well, he cares so much, he's so lovable, when we all know that's just a facade. We all know that Joe Biden is not calling zero shots. He's calling no shots in the White House as to what's happening today. So he's using Al Sharpton, the 70-year-old race hustler, to push their diversity, equity, and inclusion narrative on the American people. And Joe Biden was supposed to attend that conference, but I guess he was too busy, so he had to attend it virtually. And when he did, he shuffled on out, and he told us everything he's done to save the minority community.
Promise kept to rebuild all of America, reconnecting black communities that have been cut in half by interstate highway systems. Promise kept to protect and expand Obamacare, a promise kept to advance environmental justice, and to make the most significant investments in climate ever in all of our history.
And talk about racial, right? They reconnected highways to connect the communities. So basically, we all heard Pete Buttigieg say one time, highways were built, but they were racist because a bus full of colored kids couldn't get under the bridge to go to the lake to swim. How ridiculous is that? And of course, he expanded Obamacare because Obama was the unbelievable savior of the American people. Obama's the one who started most of this racial divide. And then he talked about environmental justice because I'm sure most of the people in the minority communities are really, really concerned about climate change. They're really pushing for environmental justice. What they really want is a president who is going to really do what he says he's going to do. Everything he said on the campaign trail in 2020, he has done nothing. Okay? All they do now is push this diversity, equity, and inclusion. To me, that means you are given a job that you are not qualified for. What DEI stands for to me is didn't earn it. We look at Joe Biden's staff, okay? The bald guy who was transgender, who was stealing suitcases at the airport because he wanted women's clothing. We see Rachel Levine, the Assistant Health and Human Services Secretary, who's obese and thinks he's a woman. This is all nonsense, but this is the propaganda push of the left. Everybody in this country is supposed to go along with this nonsense. No one really cares about DEI. I'm pretty sure most black people don't care about DEI. They just want a fair shake in this country. And we're tired of hearing about in history, how blacks were treated, how they're treated today, how everybody's racist, whites are racist, police are racist. That's all this administration talks about. And I've said this so many times before. They have zero accomplishments to fall back on. So they have to do something to try to reel in voters. When the reality is, Donald Trump is connecting with minority voters because when he was in office, he helped this country. He made sure people had jobs, had money in their pockets, prices were low, and people were happy about it. But ever since Joe Biden became president, everything has been flushed down the toilet. Everyday Americans, black, white, Latino, I don't care what race you are, what ethnicity you are, everyone is struggling except the millionaires and billionaires, the ones who Joe Biden wants to take care of. And don't forget the LGBTQs, because he's big on that front too. He doesn't even know Rachel Levine was a man. He really believes that she's a woman. And you remember, he had Dylan Mulvaney interview him at the White House when Dylan told him he's in day 300 of being a woman. And Biden said, oh, God love you. Biden had no idea what Dylan Mulvaney was talking about, and he still doesn't. He's got people whispering in his ear, we have to push this racial thing. We have to push this DEI thing because it's going to get you votes. Well, the majority of Americans, in my opinion, is so small that agree with that DEI. That is not going to bring Biden votes. It's going to tank his numbers even more. He has nothing to run on. He's made zero accomplishments. We have wars all over the world that Joe Biden is involved in financially. What is he doing for the average American besides nothing? The time has come for even Democrats to take a good look at themselves and say, we can no longer support the destruction that Joe Biden is bringing to the United States of America. They have to man up and they have to say, we are done with this nonsense. Al Sharpton, again, race hustler, has been his whole entire life. They got him involved because they need the vote of the minority community. But don't you think for a second that the minority community has had enough of Al Sharpton, because he's enriched himself with all this nonsense he spews. and everybody else around him is getting nothing for it. The only one benefiting from Al Sharpton's race hustling and the DEI are the rich people getting richer by pushing this propaganda and getting all these ads and billboards and TV commercials, right? They're getting wealthy off the backs of everyday Americans who are struggling because this administration wants to keep this racial divide in this country. And I'm here to tell you it's wrong and enough is enough. We need to move on. We need to help everybody. And no matter what the color of your skin is or where you came from, everybody needs help.